Evidence of chemical reaction STAAR test questions. I can investigate evidence of a chemical reaction to determine a new substance. Starter. The picture below shows an investigation conducted by two students. Explain what happened. So here you have a before picture, a blue liquid at 22 degrees Celsius being poured into a clear liquid at 22 degrees Celsius. Then you have an after picture. So the solution is still at 22 degrees Celsius, so there's no temperature change. The solution turns light blue, which you would expect, because if it's blue being added to a clear liquid, you would expect light blue, so there's no color change. But you do have solid particles forming at the bottom of the test tube. So that is a precipitate. So there's evidence of a precipitate. So a precipitate, a solid was formed, indicating a chemical reaction occurred to form a new substance. Practice. Evidence of chemical reaction. Read the text below. The only sure evidence of a chemical reaction is the formation of a new substance. What are other evidences that could occur? So some possible chemical changes could be production of gas, change in temperature, production of a precipitate, or a color change. Older city girls love their phones. Again, the only sure evidence of a chemical change or a chemical reaction is a new substance being formed. You can remember this simple phrase, older city girls love their phones. Say it in your mind and pull the first letter off of older and write it down. The same with city, write it down. G, write it down, and all these letters will help you remember those evidences of a chemical reaction. So color change, new or different, unexpected, gas production, bubbles, fizzing, foaming, a light production, temperature change, an increase or a decrease, which is a release or absorption of energy, or the formation of a precipitate, which is a solid forming. For your activity, connection, and exit, you're going to have STAAR test questions on slides 5 through 12. Each slide contains a STAAR test question. You're going to read each slide and look at the images. Answer each question using complete sentences. A student combined the two clear, colorless solutions shown above. The student observed that the temperature changes from 25 degrees to 23 degrees Celsius when the solutions were combined, and that a white substance rapidly formed and settled to the bottom of the container. What most likely happened to produce these results? Explain your answer. So compound A dissolved in water at 25 degrees Celsius. Compound B dissolved in water at 25 degrees Celsius. So there is a temperature change from 25 degrees Celsius to 23. Also, a white substance rapidly formed and settled to the bottom. That's an indication of a precipitate. So over here, you're going to type your answers. The solutions reacted chemically because a precipitate occurred. Also, there was a decrease in temperature. Coal contains carbon and other elements. Carbon dioxide forms when coal burns in the presence of oxygen. What is the best evidence that a chemical reaction occurs when coal burns? Explain your answer. So we have carbon plus oxygen producing carbon dioxide, a new substance. So over here you're going to type your answer. The best evidence that a chemical reaction occurs is a new substance being produced. Students in a chemistry lab conducted an investigation in which they added 4 different solid substances 2 separate beakers of water. They stirred the mixture for 1 minute and then recorded their observations in the table above. Which substance most likely caused a new substance to be formed when mixed with water? Explain your answer. So substance 1, the substance dissolved. Substance 2, the substance caused bubbles to form. Substance 3, the substance sank to the bottom. Substance 4, the substance floated to the top. So you're going to type your answer here. Which substance most likely caused a new substance to be formed when mixed with water? The substance that caused bubbles to form, indicating a gas being produced. A scientist performed 4 investigations using 8 different liquids. In each investigation, the scientist combined 2 of the liquids under a fume hood and recorded the observations in the table above. In which investigation is it least likely that the liquids reacted chemically? Explain your answer. So let's have a look. In investigation 1, after 2 liquids are combined, the temperature of the combined liquids increased and a solid substance formed. So a change in temperature and a solid substance forming, an indication of a precipitate, are both indications of a chemical reaction. Investigation 2, the temperature of the combined liquids decreased and bubbles formed. Again, you have a temperature change and bubbles forming, which indicates gas being produced. So 2 chemical changes here. Investigation 3, 1 liquid settled to the bottom of the beaker and the other liquid rose to the top. This is not evidence of a chemical reaction. This is just floating and sinking. Investigation 4, the combined liquids turned from clear to bright purple. So that's a color change because it was unexpected. So in which investigation is least likely that the liquids reacted chemically? Type your answer here. In investigation 3, because the other investigations indicate evidences of a chemical reaction. A student poured a blue solution of CuSO4 into a beaker. The student placed a shiny silver-coated strip of zinc metal into the solution and observed the changes. The process is shown in the diagram above. The student inferred that a chemical reaction occurred. What evidence supports this inference? Explain your answer. So here we have a blue solution, the zinc is placed in the blue solution, the solution turns clear, and you also have a solid substance forming and falling to the bottom. So you would type your answer here. Okay, the student can infer that a chemical reaction occurred because the dark solid formed on the dark metal, indicating a new substance, and the solution changed color. A student obtains 2 strips of magnesium Mg ribbon that are 3 centimeters long. 1 strip of magnesium is placed in a test tube containing 5 milliliters of water, and the other strip is placed in a test tube containing 5 milliliters of hydrochloric acid, HCl. Both liquids are at room temperature. The student's observations are recorded in the table. Which test tube demonstrated a chemical reaction? What are the 3 claims that support a chemical reaction having occurred? So let's look at test tube 1, magnesium and water, and test tube 2, magnesium and hydrochloric acid. So I'm going to compare the 2. No observable activity takes place. Bubbling occurs on the surface of the magnesium. So again, remember, bubblings indicate gas being produced, an indication of a chemical reaction. The temperature of the water remains constant. The temperature of the liquid increases. So an increase in temperature, that is a temperature change, an indication of a chemical reaction. A lit match placed near the mouth of the test tube continues to burn. A lit match placed near the mouth of the test tube makes a popping sound and goes out. Okay, sound is an indication of a chemical reaction. The appearance of the metal does not change. The metal strip gradually becomes smaller until nothing is left except for a clear liquid. So a new substance. So you would type your answer here that test tube 2, you note quite a few different evidences of a chemical reaction. So a gas being released, also energy is released because you have a temperature increase. Nitrogen dioxide is a gas that can be generated by emissions from vehicles and factories. It can also be generated by natural sources, such as forest fires, lightning, microbial activity in soil. The equation for producing nitrogen dioxide is shown above. What provides evidence that a chemical reaction occurs? Explain your answer. So here we have in our reactants a colorless gas plus a colorless gas producing a new substance, a brown gas. So what provides evidence that a chemical reaction occurs? You're getting a new substance, a brown gas. You could say, yes, a color change is taking place. A silver ring reacts with compounds containing sulfur in the air to form silver sulfide, a black substance that makes up the tarnish on the surface of silver objects. To remove the tarnish from the ring, students placed it in a pan lined with aluminum foil and added hot water. Baking soda was added to the hot water and stirred. Which observation of this process provides evidence of a chemical reaction? Explain your answer. So here we have silver plus hydrogen sulfide producing silver sulfide and hydrogen. Okay, a new substance being produced. Okay, it's undergoing a color change, and a new substance would be your evidence. So you would type here a color change and a new substance produced, tarnish.